10 years ago, I was living in Houston and I signed up for the MS 150, which is a fundraiser for multiple sclerosis. And you bike about 150 miles over 2 days from Houston to Austin. Now, I had never even ridden a road bike in my life. I definitely never worn these pedals that you clip onto your shoes. And yeah, I borrowed this bike from my friend, and the names on me were people who had sponsored me to raise some money. So here I was, off and away I went, and it was a lot of fun. Now, as I was training for this, I was going to the gym with some friends, and one thing that I like to do was squats. I had never done squats before, but what I noticed was, I kind of started here as far as how much I could lift and squat. And then a month later, I was seeing improvements, and the improvements were pretty noticeable at the start in the first few months. But then with enough time, those gains started to kind of, they weren't as exaggerated. And so there's this idea of diminishing returns. Whenever we exercise, whether it's trying to run fast or swim or do anything, right? We see those big gains at the start often, and then they kind of will slow down. So a lot of this also happens in reservoir engineering as well. So one example is, for example, the number of fracs that we have on our well, right? Or what our cluster spacing is. So if we start with a very low number of fracs, and then if we were to double it, we're going to see a dramatic improvement in, for example, our 1-year cum, right? Because those fracs are not really talking to each other, even if we go from very low to just medium number of fracs. And so we're going to find a very direct relationship going from, very low number of fractures or very wide cluster spacing as we start to make more dense or closer fracs. But then at some point, we're going to start to see diminishing returns in what that, for example, 1-year cum oil is going to be. So this is just one example of diminishing returns. And, how do we predict this? Because when we're designing our well, we want to try to anticipate these things to maximize our production and our economics. So one of the historical ways people will try to do this are type wells, normalizing type well by number of fracs and things like that. So let's have a quick look at that in Whitson here now. Okay, so I'm just doing some type wells here, and I'm going to normalize my y-axis on number of fractures. Okay, if we zoom in here for the first year or so, we think we're normalizing on, well, we are normalizing on number of fracs, but is this accounting for the curve that we kind of saw with our layover where we're seeing those diminishing returns? It's not accounting for that. So if we think that we can get a 1-year cum per 100 fracs or proppant per foot or whatever we want, we're going to get one number, and it's not really going to scale up as it would in reality with physics. And so this is where we are going to try to solve a problem. Okay, so we're going to talk about something, I'm going to call it a smart type well. There's a whole bunch of other names we can call it, maybe a type model, a physics-based type curve, but really we're going to basically try to predict how our well performance will change by trying a whole bunch of different things about the completion: lateral length, number of fracs, maybe even fracture conductivity, well spacing, but we can even go out as far as fracture half length, what our GOR is, what our drawdown is going to be. So these are things that, especially for development engineers, I find these are things that they want to solve and basically design their well. So let's jump in Whitson, and we're going to see how we do that right now. By the way, my name is Graham Helfrich, and yeah, hopefully we see some more videos coming out in the future. So back in Whitson, we're going to do this from scratch. This is going to be you're going to see the entire process here. So we're going to add a brand new well. We'll call it Smart Type Well. Okay, and now we always have to kind of initialize on PVT, so I'll just give an initial pressure of 6,000 pounds. We'll keep our temperature and our initial GOR as they are, and we'll just click save again here, and this is going to kind of initialize my PVT stuff that's going to be used for the forecasting here. So that pressure is inch 600. Oh, I typed in the wrong number. There we go. Okay, good. Okay, we're going to go straight to the numerical model. And by default, Whitson kind of sets up a model for you here. We've got our lateral length. I'll keep my fracs on 100, but I'm going to reduce my fracture height here quite a bit down to 50 feet. I'm going to reduce my perm down to 50 nanodarcy. So it's got everything here: fracture conductivity, porosity, gamma, or call it pressure dependent permeability in the fractures or in the matrix. So this is just going to be kind of my base model. So 100 fracs, and yeah, there we go. So we'll click save, and I'm going to forecast for a year here. We'll click run. So right now it's running this numerical simulation. This is a CMG level numerical simulator. It's running it on the cloud. And so we get our oil forecast, gas, water, our GOR prediction. And for this particular well, because we have about 190 acres of, that's how big the box is in terms of hydrocarbons, we have 7 million barrels in place. And in 1 year, we're going to recover 76,000 barrels. Okay, that's my kind of my baseline. We can look at this, on a cume plot, right, for all these as well. So this is my baseline. But now we want to sensitize on number of fracs, for example. So remember, we saw those diminishing returns when we work out. As we keep going on, we don't get those same gains that we get initially. The same is going to be true with number of fracs. But let's prove it to ourselves here. So over in sensitivities, what do we want to sensitize on? Literally any of these kind of geology descriptions, net pay porosity, saturation, to completion variables, number of fracs, really anything you see here, even rel perm stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to start with one at a time. Let's see how number of fracs impacts our 1 year cume. All right, so we are going to do, I think 100 was kind of my baseline. So I'll do 40, 60, 80. Okay, so we are going to just give these names here so we know what we're talking about, and we're going to click forecast. Okay, so right now it's running however many of these 10 or so numerical simulations. Each of them has a different number of fractures, and we can start to see what are those results. You can combine these, like I just picked one sensitivity, but you can have multiple of them picked at the same time if you want as well. Okay, so we're done already. All right, so here are the results. So if we look at our oil rate versus time, all right, so it's no surprise that our lowest oil rate is the one with 40 fracs, 60 fractures, 80, all the way up to the top, right? In terms of cume, okay, we see that our 1 year cume with only 40 fracs is going to cume about 70,000 barrels. Going from 40 to 60 fracs, we go up to 100,000 barrels at the same time. So about a 32,000 barrel increase going from 40 to 60 fracs. Okay, about 32,000 barrel increase. But we'll notice that as we go up and increase our number of fracs, those gains in our cume, 1 year cume, are not quite as significant, right? So here we increased by 32,000 barrels for our 1 year cume, adding 20 fracs. But if we had 20 fracs here, between 200 fracs and 220, our cume only goes up by about 10,000 barrels compared to 32,000 barrels here. So we're starting to capture that whole diminishing returns effect, and how there's not a linear relationship between our well performance that we're going to get in 1 year cume against number of fractures, right? It's non-linear relationship. So that's just one example. And the same thing we're seeing in the gas, the gas cumes, the water cumes, the GOR. Right? Again, this is a really fast numerical simulator. So, what does this mean for you? Well, really, you can pick any completion variable, well spacing, any of these geology inputs to do this sort of quick, smart type well sensitivity on. All right. One thing I want to really bring your attention to is also well control. This is something I find production engineers love to do. And it's really about the question, how do different drawdowns affect my well performance, right? So I'm going to, I'll do five different drawdown scenarios here. Okay, so this is my bottom hole flowing pressure profile that we're using as a default. But what if we're a bit more aggressive, right? If we start at lower flowing pressures, right? So these are the different bottom hole flowing pressure profiles we can explore now. I'm just going to name the cases so they're a bit easier to associate with the results. Okay, and we're going to just make this a 1-year forecast again here. Great. Okay, so these are the different bottom hole flowing pressure profiles the well is going to run here. So I've kind of turned off my number of fracs sensitivity. I'm just isolating bottom hole flowing pressure in this case. Okay, so we'll run that. It's really fast, as you can see. So we're looking at oil rate versus time. So our most conservative drawdown, which starts at 6,000 pounds, is kind of a modest oil rate. And then a more aggressive drawdown, 5,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds, 3,000, 2,000. They're all ultimately ramping to the same flowing pressure over a year, but they're just starting at a high back pressure versus a low back pressure. In terms of cume, we can really see the difference here where we've got the low drawdown case, medium drawdown, high drawdown in terms of, our cume through time, and then our 1-year cumes over here. So just really easy and quick and fast to do this. And again, all of the fluids, not just oil, but gas and water and the GOR are all reported for us here. All right, the last kind of sensitivity I want to do is going to be on wells that have certain rate constraints or contract rates that you're trying to meet. So in this case, I had messed around with drawdown, but in this case, I'm actually going to change it that we have some different oil rate restraints that we're going to explore. So I might start, how long can we produce 700 barrels a day for? 600 barrels. We're going to see how long we can maintain those rates and what sort of drawdown profile would be required to achieve those. The bottom hole pressure isn't going to matter too much as an input anymore here. And I'm just going to name the cases to be the rate that we're going to be achieving to associate with the results. And then the last thing I'll do is I think I'll just make my forecast a little bit longer, just in case we can maintain these rates for a long time. Okay, so we'll click Save and run. Okay, so we'll get this a little bit bigger. Okay, so we're going to zoom in here. What are we looking at here? So this is the rate versus time plot where we, how long can we maintain 700 barrels a day? We can maintain it for 12 days. 600 barrels a day, we can maintain it for 18 days. 500 barrels a day, 30 days. 400 barrels a day, about 2 months. And we can maintain 300 barrels a day for about half a year. Okay, so this is again using the reservoir model to produce all of these predictions, and the resulting gas rates here, resulting water rates, and then this is showing us our bottom hole flowing pressure profile that is needed to maintain 300 barrels per day. Right, kind of a bit of a higher bottom hole pressure profile, kind of choking the well back. But if we want to maintain 700 barrels a day, more aggressive, then we need a more aggressive drawdown, a lower bottom hole flowing pressure. So this bottom hole pressure is being predicted for us based on the rate constraint that we've told Whitson here. So again, I've tried to show this to you live so you can repeat the process yourself. It all starts with the fast numerical reservoir model that's running on the cloud here. This is kind of our base case, which we can then do sensitivities to do this sort of smart type well, model-based type well, call it a type model, whatever you want. But the point is, it's really practical. All right. Okay. So again, when I signed up for the MS 150, it was a ton of fun. And as I was training, I found that as I was doing squats and trying to get stronger, there were some big improvements early on, kind of a linear relationship between, how much time I was working out and the gains I was seeing. But then they kind of plateaued, right? So these diminishing returns were happening. And the exact same thing is happening with a lot of reservoir engineering things, such as, number of fractures. We don't see a linear relationship. And that's something that you can quickly prove and test out for yourself so that you design your well and predictive forecast a lot better and maximize your economics. And that's it. Thanks a lot for checking out this video. Have a great day.